Hi everyone. I haven't been live in a second, so I'm so excited to be back here. I want to say that I want to thank women like me. They are bringing this live to you today with Dr. Jessica Shepard, and I am so excited to answer some questions about a very hot topic that we have going on right now. Menopause. It's kind of come to the forefront of the zeitgeist, and a lot of people are talking about it. And we are also honoring Mental Health Awareness Month, and so we want to bring to you the mix menopause and mental health together. I'm going to bring her on in just a second, but I want to let you know Dr. Shepard is, first of all, one of my favorite people that I've been able to talk to, interview, have a conversation with. She is a wife, a mother, a board certified OBGYN. She's also the author of Generation M, which talks all about menopause. And she's an expert on longevity. Her kind of go-to thing is life does not end here. So I am going to make sure that I can bring her on as soon as possible with you guys. And give me 1 second. See, she will request any second now to join, and we'll bring her on. I saw your questions that you asked. A lot of you had very good questions. Some of them were the same questions that I have for myself, because I'm in this mix of this age group. And oh, hi guys, wave to me if you can wave. Tell me where you're tuning in, what city you're tuning in from. The preposition at the end of the sentence, but you can ask questions here. I have the questions you guys asked, on the slides earlier. So I'm hoping we get to answer all of those things. This is a really important conversation, and I hope it's just one part of many, many more to come. From the Netherlands. So many fun questions here. I've been well, you guys. I landed from doing the film I'm doing, and I am leaving here to go shoot a couple episodes of Bold and Beautiful, but I really wanted to take the time to have this very important conversation, and as soon as she comes on, I'm gonna bring her on so we can start right away and get right to the nitty-gritty of so many things happening with Michelle. Hi. It's one of my best friends, literally one of my oldest best friends from high school, and we're all kind of going through this similar experience where you're not quite sure what's happening with your body and dealing with menopause. I know she will come on any second here. Hi, Eileen. Oh, this is fun to see everyone. Oh, Italy, Cincinnati, all over the world. I love it. Oh, you met me in real life. Well, hello. That's awesome. I love being able to say hi to people. I could just go on about one of the things. I'll give you a couple of topics that we would like to talk about right now. One is there's a lot of talk and chatter about our bodies during menopause. A lot of talk out there. And I asked her, how do we narrow that down from all the noise and versus the news? Like, what's really important with the facts that we want to discuss? So we're going to kind of go into that. We're going to answer some of the questions you guys posed earlier, and I think this might be her. Bring her on right away. She should come on any second now. Hold on, let's see. There we go.
Hi.
I'm so glad to see your face again.
How are you? I'm so glad to see your face. Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly. You look
I love
adorable.
it.
I love your glasses.
Thank you. How are you? I heard, I was kind of listening to you as I was waiting, and I love the ability for you to kind of share your passion behind this and how important it is, because I feel that there are so many women who feel as if there are things that they would love to share or things that are going on, and sometimes they don't know where to turn. And so this is amazing that we're able to have this conversation.
One of the reasons I wanted to talk to you again, one of my best girlfriends, we were on a trip together, and she's a tiny bit older than I am. So she's really in the midst of this perimenopause, the changes that happen. And she was going through what kind of seemed to me like a little bit of an existential crisis, almost like her confidence had waned, her energy had waned. Her memory wasn't she's got it back now because she's taken some really important steps. But I remember thinking, wow, what is this? And cut to a couple of years later, I have felt very similar symptoms in
Mm-hmm.
moments where I, you know, I and the problem with me is, and I think a lot of women out there, they don't necessarily think this is menopause. They
Right.
think, what's wrong with
Or even if they know they were going through it, how does this correlate with it?
me?
It
Exactly.
seems so kind of off label for what happens during that time frame, and that's why I love to have these conversations so we can link it all together and people can truly understand why it occurs. So if there's a why and an understanding, a lot of time that takes off the ownership or the responsibility, like it was their fault something happened, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a
What,
biological aspect to it. Yeah.
and what I'm hoping we can accomplish today is to talk about the noise versus news, the
Yes.
facts that are really out there,
Hmm.
that really are real and that we should listen to. I love that this is a conversation that's in, you know, all over the place right now. So
Yes.
many people are talking about it. So this is different than, you know, what our mothers experienced, even what people experienced 5 or 10 years ago. So that's great. But now there's so much information, it's hard to kind of decipher. So I'm hoping that we'll get through a couple questions and maybe people
Yes.
with some tools that
Hmm.
are
I saw a
really,
few come up here. I'm gonna try and look at them. But yes, some tools. I
I'm
think
sure there's a lot of
that
questions that have come up.
the
I'll give you the
noise
questions
is
that
a
came up.
lot. I think that there are so many people, which is a good thing. Like there's so many people who are embarking on the topic of giving it awareness, giving it a voice. But in all of that, we still have the responsibility. I would call it more of like the responsibility of like, how do we allow people to one have ownership, to be their best advocate, in a time of need, and also to give them a really good fundamental understanding of why this is happening. Yeah.
Let's start with, can you tell me initially
Yeah.
what type of changes start to occur that we can kind of recognize um, might be menopause, and
Hmm.
how that initially affects our mental health? Meaning,
Yeah.
you know, we've coined these terms here, and brain fog, fatigue, you know, weight gain, depression. Like one of the questions
Mhm.
that came up on my story that I asked earlier today, I am feeling, someone said they're feeling severe depression and they think it might be through menopause. Is there something they can do about it? So, can we just start with initial symptoms?
Yeah, so initial symptoms, and I'll even go back a little bit further, is why this is happening is we are born with hormones. I think hormones really fuel our bodies, male, female, doesn't matter, any human. But for women specifically, we have what we call our reproductive organs, or hormones rather, which allow us to have a cycle, to go through pregnancy. And when we get to that point in life where they are starting to, trail down, namely estrogen and progesterone, they start to fuel a lot of different changes all over the body, which is why we're going through like the signs of what may start to happen. And what may start to happen is you may start to have changes with how you feel, so your mood, but you also may have kind of what we call as the hallmark, perimenopause, menopausal symptoms of hot flashes, night sweats, irritability, um, vaginal dryness, and those types of bodily kind of changes. But what we haven't really clued into, which is why we're having this conversation, is how does it impact our mood? And so what we start to see is we have neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are the hormones that are in our brain, which kind of give us our mood, whether it's heightened mood, happy versus sad and depressed mood, right? So there's things that actually modulate that, but they also interact with our estrogen and progesterone, right? They're relying on that. And so it's this like nice little family. They're this nice little family with cousins and this hormones over here, but they're all related. And so when you start to see some of these changes in the estrogen and progesterone and testosterone, which are reproductive hormones, it interplays with how our neurotransmitters are able to correlate and correspond and tell us this should be here, this should be here. And you start to have these changes and fluctuations, which makes a lot of women, a lot of my patients come in and say, I can't put my finger on it, but I just don't feel the same. I don't feel right. I feel like I'm looking at myself like outside of my body. And when I respond in a certain way, I'm like, how am I? How is that's not me? And so those are the changes that we start to see. And this is where we actually, when we look at the data, we have a heightened uh, diagnosis in that time frame of midlife women, 45 to 55, of depression and anxiety, which
And this, so
makes
this
sense.
does affect dopamine and serotonin.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dopamine is our hormone that makes us feel happy. Serotonin is the hormone that we want around to kind of keep our mood modulated. And when it takes deep dives, that's when we usually start to see things like depression, which is why medications are built to keep serotonin around longer, right? And
And,
so when we can get those a little bit more in check without it doing this, that's where people can be like, I'm okay. In addition to, I'm always a big advocate for mindfulness, meditation, all the things that we can do in our daily life that actually help our mood. Because you can regulate your brain and how it functions with those types of practices as well.
uh, one of the questions that was just asked that I think is actually a really interesting question, and then I'll go back to everything we just talked about.
Yeah.
I think it's an important question. If someone, I know people that have had to have this. If you have to have a hysterectomy, does that immediately put you into menopause?
I love this question because it is one of the most common questions I get, but it is fundamentally helpful for women who have either had the surgery or are planning for the surgery. So when we think of hormones, the one that I was talking about, reproductive hormones, estrogen, progesterone, those are released from ovaries. Okay. And so ovaries are separate from the uterus, and a hysterectomy is removal of the uterus. Now, you can include removal of the ovaries as well, or not. So if you remove the ovaries, you are removing that hormonal kind of supply of estrogen and progesterone. And therefore, if your ovaries are removed at the time of a hysterectomy, then you will go into sudden menopause, which is what we call surgical menopause, because we have literally taken the organ that supplies it and eliminated it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That
So
can be
it's a
if the patient isn't explained all of this, that can be a
correct.
real sudden
Yes.
emotional change in their life that's unexplained and they weren't warned.
I had a patient like that actually, Ashley. Maybe it was like late last year, and came to me and was besides herself, like beyond. There was no, she was like, I don't know what happened to me. And so we were going through everything, and she's like, all I know is, I had my hysterectomy about a month ago. And I was like, huh. I go, tell me, were your ovaries removed? And they were. But there was no pre conversation of what may happen after. And so I said, we are seeing a shift in your reproductive hormones as well as your neurotransmitters. And I was like, we need to actually get you back on hormones to then help the cousin hormones, our neurotransmitters, and get you feeling better. And I was like, you got to work with me. It's going to take some time, but we're going to get you there. And she came and saw me about 2 weeks ago. Completely different person.
Wow.
Completely different
I
person.
love the
Yes.
story because there's so much hope if you take
Yes.
you're your own
Oh,
advocate.
yes.
You um I got another question today. I know we have a
We
whole itinerary of things to
do.
ask, but I think these are really I love the questions that come from people that are following us.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think I know the answer because you and I have spoken about it before, but what's the best exercise we can do to help propel that serotonin and dopamine
Yes.
during decreases?
So, so I always like to just kind of put when we're thinking of neurotransmitters and feeling better and that dopamine and the release of dopamine, it's any exercise. It really is how can I get my body moving in order to start the cascade of releasing endorphins, releasing dopamine, feeling better, getting your muscles to respond. So, in that context, I will always advocate for any exercise because movement is medicine and movement does contribute to release of dopamine and feeling better. Yes.
And if we can incorporate strength training
Yes. So strength training is great because what it does is it activates neurons, right? So it's not necessarily the release of the dopamine and the
immediately, like if
serotonin.
you went and walked
Right,
10,000 steps,
right,
you're going to get your dopamine hit and your
right,
serotonin level raised, which are great, and you want that. But the
right.
strength, I've been told the
It's
strength
good for
training
brain health in general. So there's a little bit of a difference. There's neurotransmitters and then there's how we function, like our functionality of the brain being able to say, okay, I am working hard in order to know movement versus balance versus flexibility. So that one's more of like, how is my brain health functioning in order to do a function versus exercise in general is going to increase kind of like your ability to have your neurotransmitters released and where people feel good. So, I mean, it kind of goes down to when people are like, oh, the worst part of exercising is getting there. And then what do most people say after? I
I
feel good.
I one of my I have not been posting much about it, but I used to have a Fitness Friday, which I want to get
Oh,
back to. I've been a
oh,
little.
please. Can you please? I love when people do that.
I would love it. I want to. People really. That was last summer, and people really responded. So I'm going to pick it up for this summer. But what I noticed was, even I was challenging people to just get any kind of movement, any kind of strength training, even
Mm-hmm.
your own body weight, anything to get it.
Yes.
And if we could see a difference in our. But I always say at the end of my little rant on Fridays, you never regret a
Yeah.
workout. There's a lot of things in life you'll regret, but you will never regret moving
A
your body.
workout's not one of them.
It's
Getting there is
getting there
hard,
is hard.
but you'll never regret it,
So
right?
sometimes it's, my when I do hot yoga and different things like that, they say you've already won, you've showed up today.
Mm-hmm.
So if
Yeah.
we can just get ourselves to put that in our schedule, and I'm no better than anyone else. It's hard. Schedules are hard, and being a parent and working full time and doing all the things that we want to do, but I think that should be, and I'm speaking to myself. I That really should be on our schedule. I'm telling you guys that are watching. I'm going to put it back on my
Yes.
schedule, and so should you. I have a lot of people
I
asking, and
see these
since
questions.
we're
I love them.
since we're here, I might veer from our original outline. We had a great outline we were going to run by you, but there's a lot of people saying, what happens if you're still feeling symptoms later in life? Does that mean that maybe? What does that mean if you're?
Yes, I see this question. So it's particularly hot flashes. That's the one that I'm seeing there. So that's what we call a vasomotor symptom, meaning it has to do with how the body's core temperature is able to function, and it goes off kilter when we lose estrogen. And so you're not able to kind of have that thermostat set your body temperature, and that's why we have hot flashes. So when we actually look at the experience of hot flashes and night sweats, it changes. It can be longer for some women versus not. When we break that down in ethnicity, when we look at, there's a study that was done that really looked at the experience of women over the course of these types of symptoms. And the ones who had it the longest and started menopause earlier were Black women. And
Really?
so, yes. And so they will typically have hot flashes for up to 10 years. Right. And so it's not all of them, but experientially, when we look at the statistics, 10 years, and then when we go down to, they stratified, then Hispanic women were next at about 8 years, Caucasian women at about 7.1 years. Then they went down to Japanese women,
We're
which are about 4 years.
slowly.
Right.
So
So,
what can we do?
yes, awareness. So these types of conversations, when women are a little bit older and still having hot flashes, we are very much in this day and age where we understand that hormone therapy is actually so beneficial for women. So beneficial in symptoms, decreasing hot flashes, but also long term diseases that may occur, is decreasing the cause of that as well. So,
But
say
this is
heart
very
disease,
different than what science and
very
scientists were
different.
telling us 20, 30 years ago.
Very different. And the conversations need to change. And this is where they start. And you and I being able to discuss that. And who's experiencing these hot flashes? Why are they longer? Why are they more intense? How do we get help? If I'm this age, can I still access hormone therapy? And the answer is yes.
That was my next question. I hope everyone that's on here, and this will live on the grid, and I'm going to advocate for this on uh,
Yes, please
my
do.
story, so people will come here, because I know not everyone can join all at once. That is such an important question. It's never too late.
Never. And you get to now, when we look at risk, there's a risk with anything. There is a risk with crossing the street.
Right.
There is risk with starting hormone replacement therapy, even though that risk is low. But as we age, just take out the fact we are aging. So everything changes. How our arteries function, how our heart functions, our brain functions, just because of age. So I would say that as you age, some of that risk is going to increase. But those are the discussions that you have to
With
have
your
in order for you to advocate for yourself and saying, even with this risk and this increase in risk, do I want to take this to feel better with this risk? No. The answer is going to be different for everybody, right? Right.
But it could potentially increase your quality of life.
That to me, what you just said is everything. Like we could mic drop end there. Everyone gets to decide, what do I want my quality of life to be like? I've had breast cancer patients who we are like, oh my gosh, can't touch hormones, right? But they are miserable. And so then we gave them the risk of what could happen and maybe recurrence, maybe not. And I've had plenty of breast cancer patients who are like, I am willing to take the risk of what you just stated in order to get my quality of life back. And that's what really matters, is everyone's individual decision of what does it mean for me and what's my quality of life going to look like.
One of the reasons I think all these conversations are so great. Oprah did a big
Yeah.
special. We know about that. And one of her, I don't know, I didn't get to watch it, but one of her openings, she talked about heart palpitations in
Yeah.
her story.
Yes. Yes.
And I like stopped in my tracks when I heard her say that. My heart's been racing at different times, sometimes at night when I'm not moving,
Mm-hmm.
which me
Mm-hmm.
meant, am I having a heart attack? I wasn't aware. No one has told me, not one doctor has told me that you might have an increased heart rate when you go through menopause. And
Mm.
I heard that because of these conversations that are coming to the
Right.
forefront of on our Instagrams, on our phones, in the news, and all that stuff. I started looking into it, and that was a question I was going to ask you. So I mean, it's not just, it's your whole body
Whole
undergoes
body.
like reconstruction.
Yes. Everything's we're redoing.
And it doesn't mean you're having a heart attack. It doesn't
No.
mean you're dying. It just means your heart might increase. Can you explain that?
Yeah. So I look at it two different ways because I always want everyone to have worst case scenario like off the list. So if someone has that continued and it's new and it's different, I'd be like, worst case scenario, go get it checked out from your doctor,
Which
get
I'm in.
labs, get an EKG. Let's just verify that there is not a heart issue.
Right.
Most times, what we have found for women going through perimenopause and menopause is they do start to have these changes in what we call like vascular changes. So how your body responds to like parasympathetic and sympathetic tone, which just means in a excited mood versus a relaxed mood, those fluctuations can go like this. So what does your body do? It adjusts to it. So it will be like, oh my gosh, I'm going through these fluctuations. My hormones are all over the place. I'm going to have a more rapid heartbeat in order to compensate for what my body's doing internally. The other thing that we've seen is because of those neurotransmitters that are kind of all over the place, women experience anxiety, right? What does your
Well,
body do to
I mean,
respond to
just
anxiety? Heart
if
rate.
if you're not, if you don't have the knowledge, we love at women like me and patients like me, we love the concept
Yeah.
knowledge is power. And if you don't have the knowledge, which I didn't have the knowledge, you think you're
Yeah.
dying and you go to a
Yes.
scenario which causes anxiety. So then you're not going to like have a good night's sleep if your heart is racing and you think you might be dying. I don't mean to make this a joke because it's not a joke, but there's many memes on Instagram
Yeah.
right now that are funny. I love them. I think they're fantastic. I'm following all these different accounts that are great, and it makes me feel like I'm not alone. So that is
Yes.
great. But with that said, a lot of those accounts aren't offering solutions
Yes.
to fix it. They're just saying, it's almost like they're saying, oh, well, good luck. This is
Right.
it.
And then
So,
putting like a comedic tone
and
to
I
it,
love
which I'm like, this is
that,
great, but it
but
still
I don't want to
numbs the
accept
fact.
that. I just don't
Yeah.
want to accept that like I'm a part of that I don't care anymore club. Although I think those are very funny. And there's a place for comedy
Yeah.
because we need laughter can relax us and actually be very helpful. But I'd love to talk more about, you're giving us some real solutions
Hmm.
here. So when you
Hmm.
say, check it out, go to your doctor, and um,
But also being self-aware. I would always say for my patients entering this stage of life, it is a huge transition. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say that it's just like one day of your life and you're going to be over it. This can last. When you think of perimenopause, anywhere from 3 to 10 years, right? Going through these subtle shifts, changes. Oh my gosh, is that real? Did I just feel this? And we have to actually be embracing this change so that it doesn't become this like very hard thing that we're trying to fight. And so the more that we can lean into it and being like, you know what, I'm going to go through this transition. I'm actually going to embrace it in a way so when these things start to happen, I'm actually aware of what's going on in my body so I can address it. But if we are kind of like all over the place, we're not kind of hunkering down on what is going on with me right now and placing importance on that, a lot of times we miss it. Or we become hyper vigilant about it, and then it becomes something that we're trying to chase because we're kind of exposing it as this I'm dying kind of thing. And we're not. And so I think that we need to kind of being like a who's moment and just being like, perimenopause is here. These are the things that may happen, and I'm going to embrace it. But as I go through these changes, I would love to embrace it in a way where I'm getting the best information so I can do the best thing for my quality of life.
I I love that you know, one of the things that you have on your website,
Mm-hmm.
you talk about longevity. It doesn't end
Yeah.
here. Life isn't over.
Yeah.
And longevity of hormones, longevity through, you know, life can begin again in a
Yeah.
way.
Mm-hmm.
And what I would love to wrap this up with, because I think we're going to probably have part 3 and 4 and
Yes.
5,
And I'm
because
going to look at these questions
we
while you're rapping.
please
I'm
do.
going to do like a
I'll
quick shot
chat
at
and
them.
you will tag team here. I want to leave you guys with like 1 or 2 or 3 really great. I want to leave myself with a couple of really great solutions. She's already said be an advocate for yourself.
Yes.
If you have a question, go ask your doctor. And also, I would venture to say maybe your regular doctor isn't as knowledgeable as if you could find a hormone doctor
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or a board certified OBGYN that
Correct.
specializes in menopause. I know they're out there. You're one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And if they wanted to meet with you, do you
Yeah.
have telehealth or anything?
I do. I absolutely do. And I have lots of patients and I see them and it's been amazing. And for some, they've been like, thank you because I had searched and searched in their local area and haven't been able to find someone. So yes, I do.
And we live in a day and age where knowledge is at the forefront of our fingertips.
Yes.
I would be remiss if we didn't say that this is available to you, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's ways to make it very
Yeah.
affordable with insurance or not, and whatever it
Yeah.
works. I encourage you to look into that. And then as far as things that are absolutely free, I'd love to leave everyone with 3 things. So what would be your top 3 things? I'll give my top 3 things when
Yeah. You
after
give your
Dr. Jeff,
top three.
but I would love
Yeah.
to know your top 3 things that you could just give a wide variety of people what they could do today to help change tomorrow.
Yeah, I think things that they can do is mindset. I really do believe in how we enter into a phase or maybe a difficult time, troubling time, is that once we kind of set our mind and our tone to being like, I can do hard things or I can be accepting to what is coming in a way that's graceful, I do think that we surprise ourselves. The other thing is, I really do believe that nutrition and exercise are key to longevity and quality of life. And so finding ways that you can implement every day into your life through those two modalities can take you a long way. And the last thing that I would say is community. Community is so ever important when we're going through these things. So you don't feel alone. And what we have seen in studies is isolation actually only can heighten something that you're
In
going
the
through. And sometimes you feel alone. And sometimes you're like, I don't want to be around other people. But if I could tell someone today that isolation is not going to make it better, but community will.
That's the beauty of some of the stuff I've seen on social media is they are bringing together people so they
Hmm.
don't feel alone.
Yeah.
That part I love. But what she said about mindfulness, I've never really, I've always wanted to do it, but I've never really implemented even 5 to 10 minutes of quiet time in the morning before
Hmm.
my child gets up, whether it's a cup of tea or hot water with lemon. Meditation, I'm just at the tip of embracing and
Yeah.
starting that. I feel the difference in my day when I start out that
Hmm.
way.
It does
Sometimes
make a
it's journaling,
difference.
sometimes it's but it's like taking that time to organize my thoughts so I don't feel so scattered.
Hmm.
I think is really important. And what you said about exercise and diet, I know that's a very big topic and that can be overwhelming, but do your research, read Generation M that
Yes.
Dr. Shepard wrote. There's a lot of information out there right now that it's very affordable for you to Amazon. It'll be in your hands tomorrow, or you can get the audiobook, or it can go in your Kindle. And these kind of things will make you not feel alone.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try to do this. I haven't been great at it, but we could do this together. I could
Hmm.
start something this summer with my Friday Fitness, and it could be more for people going through what we're going through, like the
Yeah.
changes in life. And the last thing I want to say is it's this whole conversation has been brought to you by Women Like Me, and Women Like Me is literally there so that you have a sense of community and you don't feel
Right.
alone. If you haven't signed up yet, and Patients Like Me, it is free, which I think
Yes.
is great. We are both part of that community, and we were brought together because of that community. So you could find other connections that are very similar to what I found with Dr. Shepherd. And I think you'd be really pleasantly surprised by how much community you'll find there, and from the
Right.
comfort of your own couch or your
I know,
bed at
right?
night. If you're, it's a real service to people, and it's really there for people to have the world at their fingertips, because we live in a day and age of there's a lot of information out there, and we're here to make sure that you can like cancel out the noise and
Yeah.
just
Oh my
focus on.
gosh. If you couldn't say that again, is cancel out the noise. There's so much noise out there. And I think that people become more, they're aware, but then they become more confused, in some of the
I
chaos of
do.
it too.
I
Yeah.
totally do. I'm like, oh, do I need to go on hormones today? Or maybe I need to take
Right.
all these supplements. Or maybe I didn't do this. Or,
Yeah.
oh, I'd be eating 120 grams of protein a day. Probably all of those things. But when you hear them all at once, it's very
Oh
overwhelming.
my gosh.
And
Yes.
sometimes I do none of it because
You're like,
I
I
get
can't.
overwhelmed and my anxiety takes over. And when I get really anxious, I don't necessarily eat. And then by the end of the day, my blood sugar's low. It's a cycle.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so if we could have a more clear understanding of very simple things we could do, I think it will take us really far. You guys, I see so many
I'm going to
questions.
answer a few real quick. I have
Please,
a
before we go,
total
yeah.
hysterectomy. Do you automatically go into menopause? Remember, we said if you take the ovaries, yes, automatic. If you keep the ovaries, you do not.
Okay.
Then there was another one about what if you kept one of your ovaries. Beautiful question. So there are organs in our body that we have two of, which is phenomenal. I love how the body works. If you get rid of one, the other one will compensate for the other. So
Wow.
ovaries is one of those, just like your lungs, your kidneys. If you take out one kidney, the other one will do and function as two. I just had a hip. Oh, well, thank you, official Rossi, or yeah, I think it's Rossi for being here. I just had a hysterectomy on Friday. Today is Monday, and you're here with us, and I love that. But was left with one ovary that was healthy. Yes, you will have your hormonal production because you have one. Um, let's see, I had a total hysterectomy at 35, took hormones for years. At 70 now, I still have feelings of menopause symptoms. I would really encourage you, even at 70, to go talk to a menopause expert. I'm here. You could come and see me about what you can do, because there's things that you can do hormonally or even without hormones that can help with those symptoms. And I think that you should never count yourself out of being someone who can take hormones. You asked about hot flashes that seniors suffer from. We talked about that with the study and how that can prolong and that you can still get help. Sounds like I'll be on HRT for all my life. Yes, you do get
But
that choice and you have that
I think a lot
ability
of
to do
people
that.
are okay with that.
Yeah.
I have dear friends that are 82 that live an incredible life. They're
Yeah.
as active as I am, and they have been on HRT. Someone said, I'm now thinking that my heightened heart rate out of nowhere is menopause. So you're where I am right now. And I'm glad that
Hmm.
you're here and that you experienced this conversation, because I'd like you to check that out, because that's, I was able to go get my stuff checked out, and it is because of menopause. I'm not
Yeah.
dying. I'm just
Thank you.
transitioning to a different. But I want to tell
Yeah.
everyone, because of some of the stuff I've learned from your book and talks with you, I am going to meet someone, and it very well may be you. I don't have an appointment yet, but I've talked to a lot of friends. I definitely want to go on HRT, and I'm willing to say that. I know there was a stigma about it for a little bit, but
There was, yeah.
I don't know if it's gonna be the patch or what it's gonna be, but
So
I might make my
many options.
with you and look at my options, and
Yeah.
I'm happy to discuss that. But that is something that I definitely am gonna oh, I love that people are saying, yeah, I'll finish my sentence, that I am going to go down that road. And I just don't want people scared of it based on some of the stuff that our moms told
Hmm.
us, because
Hmm. Yeah.
someone said Dr. Shepard's book, Generation M, is an awesome resource. Absolutely. That is a
Oh,
given.
thank
You guys should
you.
just order that book today. A lot of people are talking about your book. Yes, they have it.
Thank you. And then someone said, do I have an Instagram post? It's Jessica Shepherd MD, and it should be here tagged, and you'll see it
It's
once we tag
tagged
this
up here at the very
Instagram
top.
content.
If you're on right
Yes.
now, you can see it scrolling up the top. Also, I will do a post on my page, and obviously she will be tagged. She's
Yep.
already tagged in stories if you want to go to my stories. Her page is an incredible resource, and so is patients like me and
Yes,
women
it
like
is.
me. So lots of different ways to get information. I know these are short little quips that we're giving you, but
We're going
I
to
think we'll be,
continue this conversations. Yeah. And
and
also share, what you heard today from Ashley and I with someone else. Like impart that information and give that gift to someone else.
especially if you're talking about the heart rate and going on HRT and the meditation in the morning and making sure that the diet and exercise is so important. She really dives deep into that in her book. So I would love for you guys to spread the word. Please share. I'm going to post
Yes.
this, so please share this with people. Share it with a friend that might enjoy it or needs it, even if they don't want to enjoy it. And I think we answered a lot of the questions. We're going to wrap up here because I have to go shoot 2 episodes of Bold and the Beautiful. You have to get back to your patients.
Yes.
I'm
Thank
so glad that
you.
we were able to do this, and we'll just keep continuing the
We
conversation.
will.
I'm so grateful for you, Dr. Shepard, and
I'm
I know
so
we're going
grateful
to do
for you
something in
too.
the future in person, so
Yes, please.
I look forward to that. All
Okay.
right, everyone. Thank
Bye,
you for
everybody.
joining me.